in the bank, in the post office, at the university. Whenever you have to show an ID, and that ID basically outs you as trans and might put you at the risk of violence, discrimination, refusal of services, etc.
The Centre for Gender Advocacy has launched a lawsuit against the Quebec government that could lead to a landmark decision for transgender rights. They argue that having gender identity recognized is still difficult or impossible in Quebec for several members of the community.
Trans non-citizens who currently are excluded from the legal name and sex change regime in Quebec, trans youth who still face significant barriers to changing their legal name and sex in Quebec, trans parents who want legal recognition that it is a fundamental right to change their parental designation after they transition, as well as a right to be designated as a parent if that's how they identify. And finally, the rights of non-binary and intersex people who don't fit in the current MF obligation that's imposed on everyone.
This court case aims to expand on significant changes to Quebec law that passed in 2015, including the right to change one's legal gender markers without medical intervention. But full citizenship is a legal requirement to change those markers, a difficult position for visibly trans immigrants.
So trans migrants are still obliged to get their citizenship in order to change their IDs. And as you may know, getting citizenship might require up to 7 or 10 years.
She says transgender youth are also excluded.
You know very well that not all trans youth have access to parental support, which is still required by the law at this point.
People that are intersex, or people that identify as non-binary, being not exclusively masculine nor feminine, they use the pronouns they and them. Many would like to have the option to put the gender marker X on their IDs or leave the gender marker off their IDs altogether. Several jurisdictions around the world now allow for a third option, including Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan and India. And here in Canada, British Columbia, the Northwest Territories and Ontario have the X gender marker option.
In general, the thing is it creates a lot of anxiety when you don't fit your IDs. So it's just everywhere I go, everything that will ask me my IDs, it's a bit of stress. It's the stress when I try to just find jobs. I think right now my personal biggest problem is that I have a mismatch when we talk about my identity when I try to go for a job.
Final arguments are being presented in court this week. In Montreal, Emily Campbell, City News.